Hey everybody, it's Kary Oberbrunner. I have with me a best-selling author, a super cool guy. Everybody on our team that meets him just says, "Oh my gosh, this guy is so cool. He's so nice." Jeff Henderson, welcome.
Kary, good to see you, buddy, and love working with you and your team.
Awesome. Well, listen, someone told me about your first book, and I love business. I love faith. I love entrepreneurship, and they said you have to read this book. And so I read it on audio or listened to it on audio, and it rocked my world. And then all of a sudden, I show up at a John Maxwell event, and I see you there, and you crush the stage. I mean, you're a fantastic speaker, amazing communicator.
Thank you.
Yes, and then I go up to you after, and I'm like, "Hey, listen, you ever want to chat about your next book?" And you said, "I'm working on it." So listen, tell us about the first book. We'll get into the second book. Give us a little bit about your background, and let's
hmm
jump in.
Sure. Well, so as you know, Kary, I worked in both the business and the nonprofit space, and I think what's surprising to a lot of folks is how similar those worlds are. They're not that different.
Yeah,
I mean, there's people there. They need to be led well. They need to know clarity on the roles and all that. And so I was able to work at two thriving organizations: Chick-fil-A, which is just experienced explosive and consistent sales growth, and then North Point Ministries, one of the largest nonprofits in the country. And I was telling that to a mentor, and he said, "Hey, you should tell us what you've learned and what catalyzed that growth." And so I really boiled it down to two questions in the book. What do you want to be known for? And then that's your vision, that's your unique niche. And then what are you known for? That's the reality of the business and where we are. And there's a gap in any organization. And so what the book tries to discover or reveal is that there's four ways to shrink the gap so that what you want to be known for is what you're known for. And that's what the book's about, is those two questions. And when you do that, you create vision carriers for your organization. We all know positive word of mouth advertising is the most powerful form of business growth. So that's what it was about. And it was fun over the last several years to see a lot of churches and nonprofits really get clear about what they want to be known for. And there's for Guatemala and for Dubai and for El Paso and on and on. That's been fun. But it's been fun to see the business world lean into that. The Atlanta Braves launched for the A and actually won the World Series last year. So there you go. So that's what it's about. And it's been
that's
fun.
cool. Oh
It's been
my
fun.
gosh, I did not know that. That's
Yes.
interesting. So Atlanta,
Well, it's interesting. They actually played the Houston Astros, and Houston was doing for the H. So it's for the H versus for the A. So that was really, really fun to see. And but it's been fun. So I was, before we recorded, I told you I was in Michigan on Sunday and then Orlando yesterday, and speaking to a nonprofit on Sunday and speaking to business leaders on yesterday and so on Wednesday. And so it's been fun to just kind of go back and forth between those worlds. But as I mentioned, now more than ever, we really need to be clear about what we want to be known for. And in a crisis and a challenging season that we've been through the last 2 years, as you look at history, leaders understand, as challenging as days are, there's an opportunity here for us to move forward. And for those that understand what they want to be known for and then get really clear about where they are, you have to start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Let's shrink the gap. Let's get clarity on the roles and where we're going. You can move the organization forward even in spite of challenging days.
I gotta stop here because listen, you just kind of gloss over that. But if I wrote a book that the two, I don't even follow baseball, but you're saying that Houston Astros and Atlanta Braves, that they were both in the World Series or in the champ. Shut up. They were both in the World Series.
Both in the World Series. That's right.
And your book is a cultural book that both of these teams ascribe to. That's crazy. I mean, come on, Jeff. That is nuts.
Well, I think it serves as a lesson that what they're doing is they're in essence saying, who are we playing for? And what are we playing for? And it's not surprising that those teams made it to the championship, right? So, and that's true not just in sports, but it's true in business. It's for example, there's a company that I've been working with, Newell Brands. They're probably most familiar, most well known for the Sharpie pen. Yet they have a family division called Graco, and so they want to be known for this. This is really cool, Kary. They want to be known for supporting the world's biggest job, parenting. And that's what they're there to do. And they're for parents. And so every time they go to work today, while they have different departments and everybody has different roles, they're all doing the same thing. They are supporting the world's biggest job, parenting. That kind of clarity and inspiring purpose is helpful because, as I shared with the group yesterday in Orlando, their biggest issue right now is finding, attracting, and keeping talent. And I had to tell them, I got even more bad news for you. It's not going to get any better. And the reason that is because, at least in America, America has a shrinking population. There are now more 80-year-olds than 2-year-olds. And so what we're beginning to discover is the sansdemic. Pandemic, as you know, means all people. Sansdemic means without people. And you fast forward this 10, 15 years from now, there's going to be a war on talent. So creating a great culture, a great environment, a place where people are giving their lives to something that has meaning. Purpose and profit in today's world will travel together, and they should. And so that's what the book helps you do, is to really get clarity on, hey, are we creating an environment and a work that is creating something, to what I call a no snooze alarm organization, that when the alarm goes off, you don't hit snooze. In fact, there's a company, Milestone Construction in Indianapolis, I'm doing some work with. They want to be known, and this is a construction company, I love this. They want to be known for making lives better, one road and bridge at a time. I love that. They're connecting what they do with a higher purpose, right? We're just not building roads and bridges, although building roads and bridges are infinitely important. At the same time, they're making lives better by how they do this. And so that's connecting purpose and profit together.
Listen, man, when you get 88 5 stars, 88%, 400 plus, you're doing something. And I love the fact that churches and businesses alike are gobbling this up. Isn't that cool that when God in his word, can touch culture and church, faith and business? That's pretty cool. I'm glad that you're that type of writer. Was that difficult for you to decide to do that?
No, not really. I mean, like you, I feel called to both of those worlds. And one of my goals was to have this book in a public school. And I've had that. And I just wanted it to be able to impact all parts of culture. I love how the Apostle Paul said, there's an aroma that we have as followers of Jesus. Some like the aroma and some don't. But I want to be able to bring the aroma wherever I go. And I don't want to, I'm not apologizing for what I believe, but this message is, I think, it's been so fun after I speak to do the 4 message. And like yesterday's message was clearly business. There was no Bible verses or anything. I had so many conversations afterwards, Kary, of people going, hey, I'm a believer. Can I ask you about this? And I'm going through this. And then that's the aroma of the Holy Spirit, right? It's like, I didn't say anything about a Bible verse or God on the stage. And yet people can just kind of sense and the aroma of like, wow, this 4 message, it sounds familiar. I said, yeah, there's a verse called "For God So Loved the World." So it's there. But I love kind of going undercover. And I think we've got to do a better job as Jesus followers of, when we talk about work and business, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be, our version of Christian ministry is we have a Bible study at lunch in the workplace. I'm all for Bible studies at lunch at the workplace. That's awesome. But one of the best things we can do as Jesus followers in the business world is to run an incredible business. I love what Martin Luther said when he said that God loves it when a shoemaker is making shoes, not because he hums a Christian hymn as he makes the shoes, but because God loves great craftsmanship. And there is a glory to God about running a great business. I mean, what you do and the interactions I've had with your team, I mean, it's high standards of excellence. And as Jesus people, we should never apologize for those high standards of excellence. We should never cut corners. We should never go, well, this, people would ask me when I left Chick-fil-A to go help start 3 churches, when did you
Right.
decide to go into full-time ministry? I'm like, oh, I already was in full-time ministry, right?
Right.
And that wasn't because I was working at Chick-fil-A, Christian chicken. That was way before that. So anyway, not to get off on a sermon, but
That's
I
great.
specifically wanted this book to be able to impact, every organization. And, one of our heroes, John Maxwell, that's what he's done. I mean, he's able to run in these different fields and just easily transition from nonprofit to government to business to education. I mean, it's amazing to me how he does that. And that's kind of not to speak for you, but that's kind of I think a pathway for guys
Oh
like
yeah,
us to follow.
absolutely. I think it's so important. I like how you also practice what you preach, meaning I watch your social media. I've seen pictures of you highlighting a local business where somebody's serving you whatever, a smoothie, ice cream, who knows, and you basically are endorsing them. Tell us a little bit about that, because we have authors, entrepreneurs, and influencers mainly watching this, and we'll watch the replay. That's who the Igniting Souls Conference is for.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there is this switch in most of these people's minds where some of them, when they first start, they think it's about their book, their brand, their business, and everyone should line up to buy from them. And I know we're going to talk about your next book in a moment because it's what's next. But just to button this up, why do you make the branding switch to be for other people?
So I wrote in the book, if a business was a person, many businesses would be considered narcissist, because it's like, look how great our business is. And did you know that we're better than our competitors? In fact, for one day, if I could be a marketing director for a phone company, I would say, stop talking about your competitors and pricing. What I would do is I would say, hey, parents, if you're having a hard time trying to figure out how to manage your kid's cell phone, we're gonna help you do that, and join our company and join our plan. We're going to help you be better parents. That's
Wow.
that's being for your customer and thinking about them. But the spotlight is all about the business in so many instances. And it's not just true in large brands, it's true for us. And yes, we do need to sell. At some point, we do need to say, this is what I offer, but starting with the problem. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And so many times organizations forget the social and social media, and they're not doing social media, they're doing digital media. So when I was the lead pastor at Gwinnett Church, we would do these things called For Gwinnett Friday, and we would feature a local business every week. And part of the reason we did that is it was a placeholder that forced us to stop talking about ourselves. And
Wow.
while we wanted to tell people, hey, here's what we're doing and don't miss this, and come to this event, all that's great. We had a system that every fourth post needed to be about the community and not about us. And anytime we looked at it and it said, you know what, the last 7 posts have been about us, there was a warning light on our dashboard that said, no, we're for Gwinnett, we're for our community, yet we're talking about ourselves all the time. So when I work with organizations, we actually go to Instagram and we count how many posts they have before we can get to maybe talking about the customer or highlighting the customer. So there needs to be a balance, right? You can actually go too far on that side, but there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a system. But if you don't have a system about this, Kary, there's no question. The organizational pull is what I call insideritis. And insideritis focuses on the organization and what's best for the organization. That's consumer. That's producer logic. We're producing this stuff instead of going consumer logic. When I worked at Chick-fil-A, we would go and work with operators, and we would tell them the best time to be out in front of the counter is noon every day. And sometimes they would say, Jeff, you realize that's the busiest time of the day. We need to be behind the counter. I said, I understand that. But if you never see the business from the customer's point of view on the busiest time of the day, you'll make decisions based on what you're seeing behind the counter. And many times, maybe more than often, the decisions behind the counter are not as helpful as the decisions in front of the counter, because ultimately we need to be for the customer.
So good. That's so good. And I mean, I even had this experience yesterday. We're having a ping pong table delivered to our family. It's a a big, exciting purchase here. But there's a gentleman named Rico who is part of the delivery team. And anyway, long story short, the delivery thing got messed up. Rico totally caught the vibe of the customer, me, and the other people were not catching it. And I just like went out of my way to like thank him, write a review, blow up his company website, because Jeff, you know it when you run a business or a church, you're trying all you can, and when you have an insider who gets it, you're like, thank you. And the opposite is very true, when they're all just like, well, you go fix your own problem and this isn't our fault and blah blah blah. All right, what do you
That's
think?
the world we live in. That's the world we live in. In fact, we were speaking in Michigan this past weekend, and Wendy and some friends came with us, and we made most of our dining decisions based on Google reviews.
Yep, it is. It's true. Okay, let's get into your next book, because listen, Zondervan, great publisher. I was blessed to work 2 of my books with them.
Yeah.
And I love Zondervan. I love Thomas Nelson, the whole merger there. But let's talk about this book, and what is this book about, and why is it following for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, if anyone knows, or someone who's trying to figure out what to do next, which is seemingly millions of people every month, that's why I wrote What to Do Next. And over the course of my career, I've had 4 big moves that some would say were risky, and they were risky. Moving from Chick-fil-A to help start a church in Atlanta where the preacher was going to be on video, moving from that church to starting a brand new church. Would it work again? And then launching 2 more churches after that, and then moving from that to doing what I'm doing now. Those were some risky moves. And so I've been asked over the years, hey, how did you figure out what to do next? And I knew I had a system, Kary, but it was more intuitive to me. And I thought, you know what, there are some principles, there are some strategies that I actually used to not eliminate risk. You can't eliminate risk, but you can shrink it. You can manage it. So when you make a decision, if someone's trying to figure out, you know what, I think I've hit kind of the end of this season at this particular job, or I've always wanted to launch a nonprofit or a business, or I want to launch a side hustle. You can't eliminate risk, but you can. It doesn't have to be like this leap over the Grand Canyon, but it can be a jump over a mud puddle. Sure, you might get wet and muddy and it might not feel great, but you're not plunging thousands of feet below. And so that's what this book is about. It really starts with my last day at Gwinnett Church almost 2 years ago, and just the journey from there to here. And even though I've done this before, it's still, there are sleepless nights and what am I doing? And oh my goodness, did I make all that? And then you're going down this road, and then you decide, or well, we're not going to do that. So you have to pivot and all of that. But it's the principles and the strategies. An example of that would be a strategy of what to do next, because we feel we can't figure out the future, so we feel paralyzed. So a strategy in the book is, don't let what you don't know rob you of what you can do. There are some things that you can do that may not tell you what you're going to do, for the rest of your career, but it can tell you how to make your next step. And that's really the overarching principle as well, is you don't have to figure out what to do for the rest of your life. You can figure out what to do next and make the best decision possible, and to keep moving forward. So it's all about how to build a network. What are the questions to ask? Leaving well. And really there's a free assessment, the career risk assessment, because it assesses, where are you on the journey? Are you, there's some, if you get a red light, it doesn't mean that you failed. It means you've got some work to do before you make that leap. If you get a green light, it doesn't mean you have to leave.
Wow.
It means, okay, you're positioned now. And maybe there's a couple of other things that you need to do. So, we're in the middle of what economists are calling the Great Resignation, or Resignation Nation. And so millions of people are waking up going, okay, what do I do next? And so that's the purpose of the book, is to help people with helpful strategies, helpful tools, just simply try to find their next best step. That's all we're doing. And that next best step may be a side hustle. That next best step might be for a season. But if you take your next best step and then your next best step, you begin to gain some momentum. And so, and the other thing too is, as I mentioned, this is not something that I wrote the book in the middle of a new season of trying to figure out what to do next, and so that's why this book's really personal to me, because I'm very vulnerable in the book and talking about grieving the job that I left because I love the people, I love the role. You kind of want that grief. You don't want to, if you leave a job and go, I'm glad I'm out of here. I'm glad I'm leaving these people. I mean, that's that may be easier, but it's kind of bad. You want to have grief. In fact, I hired a transition consultant to help me with the grief and just working through some of how do I, deal with my emotions while at the same time I got to create a business. And you've done that, and you've been there, you know that. So that's what it's about. And I think it's for there's a niche audience there, but it's a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And I would say this, even for the folks that are like, I think I'm pretty happy where I am, which is awesome. At some point, this issue will arrive at your doorstep.
Oh yes.
The more you're prepared. For example, because of my Chick-fil-A background, people ask me, should I become a Chick-fil-A operator? Should I pursue that? And my answer is, I don't know, but I can tell you how you can figure out whether you should or not. You should go down to your local Chick-fil-A and apply for a part-time job as a side hustle. If you don't like your part-time job at Chick-fil-A, working the drive-thru, you are not going to like being an operator. But if you fall in love with the business and a side hustle while you currently have your full-time job, right, but you're peeling off a few hours at weeknights or whatever, that side hustle, and that's a lot of work. That takes discipline. That takes hard work. But if you can create that and see those steps, it might not lead you to that particular road, but it's going to lead you to something. And our mutual, hero, John Maxwell, he's all about action. Take action. And so that's what the book provides. Like, okay, here's some specific action steps you can take. Such as how to build your personal network, because your personal network largely determines your personal net worth.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. So folks, this comes out in literally 5 weeks. You pre-order it now. It's called a pre-order price guarantee, which is fantastic. I love the fact that Amazon does this. It basically says that, hey, if this book goes lower between now and August 23rd, you're going to get the lower price. The reason why I like this is because there's a lot of books that go out of print immediately. Publishers aren't prepared for the demand. I know Jeff has a lot of followers. He's got a lot of people that are excited about this book. So I'm going to challenge you right now today to pre-order this thing. I like the audio, my friend. What I'm going to do, can you see my screen?
I can.
Boom. I'm buying this.
Look at you.
I'm buying
Thank you so much, Kary.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Come on, you dumb thing. Anyway, there we are. I got it. Okay. So listen, I literally, your first book changed our business. And I'm not saying that any hype. I'm saying that we looked at our social media and said, we need to change the way we post, and we need to change who we feature and how we tag. I mean, this is a very practical book. Your book that, about the next step. By the way, our conference theme 2 years ago was your next best step. And I love it because I fully agree. People fall in love with the romantic belief that they're going to go in, tell their boss, the man or the woman, they're done, go to the beach, figure it out, strike gold, and by noon have a 7-figure business. I mean, that's the lie and the myth. And I love the fact that you said, look, side hustle, do the thing first. And I did a little research a few years ago. There was a University of Wisconsin's report that tracked the most successful entrepreneurs and said, did they have a side hustle first, or did they just go all in? And it was crazy higher that the side hustle people won. So I think you're onto something. Obviously, you wrote the book. I can't wait to get it. What's next for you? I know we got like one more minute. We're gonna bring you to the Igniting Souls Conference, and you're gonna take a deep dive. But what is God putting on your heart now? What's next for you?
You mentioned the Igniting Souls Conference. I'm very excited about that. And thanks for the opportunity to be there
Oh yeah,
and influence the team. And I'm excited about the message and how it can, I'm hope serve your community.
absolutely.
So in terms of what's next for me, that you talk about side hustles. So my side hustle for a long time had been coaching communicators, and that has really blown up in a really good way because of the focus I've been able to have on that.
Wow.
And so that's a huge part of our business right now is coaching communicators and helping them make their next presentation their best presentation. So, but I began, to your earlier point, Kary, I began that side hustle probably 12 years ago in terms of coaching communicators. And so here we are. So your point is well taken, that we feel like we're going to quit our job on Friday and discover that next season on Monday. And that's called a movie. And, and it takes a lot longer than that, but I don't want to discourage folks who are really because sometimes next happens to us. The company gets downsized, we get laid off, something happens. And so there are some things like, hey, I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
But to your point, for me, coaching communicators and then serving as a speaker and author, serving churches and businesses. That's what I've done the last few days. I was in Michigan at a church, and then was at a conference yesterday in Disney speaking. And that's what I feel called to do right now, is to serve a larger group of churches and businesses, helping them serve what they want to be known for. And so that's
and you have a John Maxwell integration somehow.
Absolutely. John has brought some different voices in, and I'm what they're calling a thought leader. And so all consistent with who John is and what John has done over his career, but maybe providing a different, different language of know what you're for and what to do next and all of that. And so honored to be working with John and Mark Cole and the team. And that's where you and I met at Maxwell Conference. And so to be able to meet incredible people like you through John has been such a gift. And another thing that really is overarching for Wendy, my wife Wendy, and me, is we want to build a life that we enjoy. And as a business owner yourself, if you're not careful, you can be working nonstop. And so the biggest challenge sometimes, Kary, is saying no to really good things, right? But Wendy and I've looked at some opportunities lately and go, yeah, we could say yes today, but is this building a life? Is this the pace we want to do? Is this building a life we want to enjoy? Good. So in terms of your what's next, part of what's next is me trying to be the best husband and dad I can be, and not be 100% as a business leader or owner all the time. And that's a challenge, because what you think, if you turn the spigot off, if you turn it back on, will anything come out? So finding that balance. But that's, I really want to be a better person and better leader through this.
Awesome. Folks, there's the link. Pre-order your copy right now. As I mentioned, it's a pre-order price guarantee. He's got some great things on his website that you mentioned, that career assessment. We put in the link for people to connect with you. I love the whole thing about make your next presentation your best presentation. And so any communicators, go to jeffhenderson.com. You're not going to find a guy who holds his faith and value for the business, simultaneously, and integrates it better than Jeff. So Jeff, thanks for being here. I'll just stick around with you for one more minute, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Kary. Appreciate you, buddy.